That's right. Welcome back to Mean Green Game Day. We are coming to you live inside Studio B for this special morning edition. We will take you right up to kickoff of the North Texas Mean Green and the Army Black Knights matchup that will be shown tonight or in a couple of hours on the CBS Sports Network. I'm Kyle Youmans, not Ashley Pickle, filling in for her this evening, but I'm joined by the great Chiofalo, Ryan King, Nick Lalpuis, and with Brady Keene down on the side. And guys, North Texas coming into this matchup 3-3. Everybody's happy. It's sitting at 500, a potential for a really kind of special season here in Seth Luttrell's first year in Denton. And guys, what did you guys see from this Marshall matchup 2 weeks ago after the bye week now? What did you guys see here at home at Apogee 2 weeks ago?
Well, UNT finally put on a good performance at home in front of the fans.
Yes.
They played the most complete game, offensively and defensively. They ran the ball well. I mean, they had 278 rushing yards as a team. Jeffrey Wilson, 26 carries, 188 yards.
Monster.
Yeah, he's the man. Got to get him involved all the time, and they did that well the other day. And then defensively, they only gave up 13 rushing yards.
It was, like you were saying, it was just an all-around great game from both sides of the ball. You had 23 first downs. We were just moving the ball up and down the field with ease, stopping Marshall from doing pretty much anything on offense.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, they were just so consistent on both sides of the football. They really, the offense had 23 first downs against Marshall, so, you know, keeping the defense off the field, which is good, giving them a rest, and also the defense getting a pick six, getting on the board there, getting some scoring done.
And no turnovers for the offense, so that's always a recipe for success.
That's huge. I mean, the fact that you don't turn over the ball and then you have a running back like Jeffrey Wilson who goes off and has his best career day statistically wise. Did get banged up a little bit there, so he could have gone over 200 yards if he may have not gotten that stinger in the fourth quarter on that night. But a huge reason, as you see from the highlights that we're showing right now, that this team is 3-3 is just the consistency of the true freshman at quarterback, Mr. Mason Fine.
Absolutely.
Coming in, big number 6, or I guess little number 6, in the green and white, coming in and really making a difference in his first year at the helms.
Yeah, no, he's been really impressive. He's a freshman quarterback. You never really know what you're going to get with a freshman quarterback, but he's been pretty consistent all year. I mean, the last 3 games he's thrown for at least 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interception. That is how you win football games.
And I think the biggest thing is what you said at the end there, the no interceptions. When you're a freshman quarterback coming into a new system, new coach, new everything, you just need to keep the ball and make sure you don't make mistakes. Don't beat yourself.
Exactly.
Make the other team beat you.
Yeah, and is it just me, or does the offense just look a little more composed with Mason Fine in there? And isn't that a little crazy coming from a true freshman, being able to kind of keep the offense composed? That's, I mean,
He's been the leader. He
yeah,
just
he's done
takes
a
the
terrific
leadership
job
role.
coming in here as a true freshman.
Yeah, and that's not what we expected coming into the season. We had Alec Morris transferring in from Alabama. He's a 5th-year senior. He's been around the block a time or two. We thought he was going to be the guy who was composed and leading this team, and then turns out it's the true freshman Fine who comes in, and he's doing a great job.
And it's funny to say that not anybody expected this, but back on our first show of Mean Green Game Day, Mr. Josh Conrad was throwing that out there that he was Mason Fine. This is going to be Mason Fine's team.
Oh yeah, he loves that.
Man crush, right? Yeah, his wallpaper is Mason Fine. I don't even know.
God. He's got a fat head in his room, doesn't he?
He probably does. He probably
sure.
does.
Nice plug,
Mason Fine, though, in the last 3 games, over 200 yards, a touchdown, at least rushing and throwing, and then 0 interceptions for the true freshman. And that's all you can ask for from a quarterback. But on the other side of the ball, the defense really stepped up. We already talked about how little they held Marshall rushing-wise, 13 total yards in that last game. How much improvement have you seen from this defense over the first couple weeks of the season?
Big time improvement. It starts with the rushing game. The secondary's been a little bit of an issue for the defense of the Mean Green this year, and the way to help that secondary is by stopping the run and being able to pin your ears back and get pressure on the quarterback. When you force a team to be one-dimensional, even though your secondary is not very good, if you can force a team to be one-dimensional, you know they're going to have to throw the football, then you can pin your ears back, rush the passer, and get after the quarterback.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking the big thing is the rush defense. We just have to keep that up, and that actually bodes well for us into this next game coming up against Army because they are primarily a run team.
Oh, that's all they do.
So I think that is going to be the biggest takeaway from our defense. Can we keep up the rushing?
And the rush defense is important, but compared to the first week against SMU, the secondary has improved a lot. They have 6 interceptions. That's 3rd in Conference USA. They had the pick 6 last time. So I think the secondary, yeah, it's still not great, but it's definitely shown some signs of improvement.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if that defense shows up tonight North Texas is definitely going to have a chance. When we come back here on Mean Green Game Day, we will dig deeper into the landscape of college football, preview this morning's matchup between North Texas and Army, as well as predict some of tonight's top matchups. Stay with us.
25 years in the making. To find new solutions, we create a new point of view. We know what's possible when creativity, originality, and independent thought converge. We're ranked a Tier 1 research university. We're home to excellence the size of Texas. Define your future at UNT and soar to new heights.
Of all the things you've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason. Because it means love and devotion for one's country. Love. But what really makes up this country of ours? What is it we love? It's the people. Almost half the country belongs to minority groups. People who are lesbian, African American, and bi, and transgender, and Native American, and proud of it. After all, what's more American than freedom to celebrate the things that make us, us? This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, disability, sexuality, race, religion, and any other labels. Because the second any of us judge people based on those labels, we're not really being patriotic, are we? Because love has no labels.
Welcome back to Mean Green Game Day. Before we get into the previewing the Army game this morning, it's been an interesting season in the Conference USA thus far. It seems wide open, guys. Where do you, Ryan, I'm going to start with you, where do you see this conference really heading in the next couple of weeks as we end up this season?
Well, the East is headed by FIU, which is a huge surprise. They're undefeated at 3-0, but their overall record is 3-4, so I don't know if we can expect much out of them coming up. But in the West is just wide open right now. You have 4 teams at 2-1. Their overall records are also pretty similar. So I think the conference standings on both sides are pretty wide open.
Yeah, you see a lot of 4-3s, a lot of 3-3s. It really is wide open. It bodes well for UNT. I mean, they're sitting there right in the middle of the pack. I mean, if you're Coach Luttrell and you're a part of this Mean Green football team, you're thinking to yourself, listen, why not us? Why can't we go make a push for the West and try to get this conference?
And that's another thing. I mean, they still have a lot of time to maybe run the tables and maybe get into that championship game. And man, what a difference a year makes, honestly. So I go back to 1-11 last year, and now we're halfway through the season, and you're in a 3-way tie for first place of your division. It's incredible how good this team is.
I don't think there's really a front runner at this point. I mean, with FIU, at the top of the East Division, I don't think anybody really expects them to hang on to that. But then at the same time, what do you think? I mean, Old Dominion, Middle Tennessee, Marshall, none of them are looking that good. So, I mean, it really is up for grabs at this point.
And I just want to butt in real fast and just talk about 2 years ago, or I guess 3 years ago now, 2013, Rice was the team that won the conference. They were the conference champions, and they're the ones that are in the bottom cellar right now in the conference, and that just shows how much things can shift over time. Ryan, I want to go back to you. How long do you think it will take North Texas to really get back up into being legitimate contenders in the Conference USA?
Well, Seth Luttrell has laid a great foundation at the beginning of this year. I think 1 or 2 years, once he gets some recruiting classes coming in, wants to establish his system, I think UNT will have a great chance at winning coming forward. They could even do it this year. I'm still on that bandwagon. I think they could do it.
Yeah, and that's one of my bold predictions for the UNT this season is I think they go to the bowl game or the conference championship. I say they win this year.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here. I mean, listen, we're sitting at 3-3 right now. We're feeling good, but this season we could look back and they end up being a 3-win team for the rest of the season.
And I'm interested to see what our other analyst, Brady, who's off to the side, thinks about this. Brady, what are you thinking in terms of conference stuff and the way that North Texas is heading in this landscape?
Yeah, guys, so at this point in the season, there's a four-way tie for first place in the division that North Texas is in Conference USA. So we have UTSA, North Texas, Southern Miss, and La Tech are all tied at 2-1 at the top of that conference. UNT has to play all of those teams. So really at this point, we don't know where they are or where they will end up until we get a look at them against one of these top-tier teams. They play Southern Miss next week, and I think that game will tell you a lot about what we can expect for them the rest of the season. Kyle?
Thanks, Brady. And he has a great point in the fact that it's just wide open and that we have to really watch and see what happens. But I want to shift attention real fast to really the national landscape of college football. We're getting into week 8 now. You've had a good look at some of these true contenders for the college football playoff, but who has impressed you the most? Nick, let's start with you. Who has impressed you in the college football world?
I would say Washington. I'm not sure if I didn't pay attention a lot over the offseason. I don't know if they were really expected to go, have this good of a season so far. But yeah, they've definitely impressed me the most over in the Pac-12 is Washington.
Now, I have 2 teams, actually, that have impressed me the most. I have Louisville. This kid, Lamar Jackson, coming out of nowhere. He came from JUCO, and he was lighting it up there, but I don't think anybody expected him to put up the numbers that he is putting up right now. And also, I want to throw in there A&M. Because they listen, I have good reasons. They are more complete on both sides of the ball this year than they have been in the past few years, where they've started off hot, they get this huge thing going, and then they crash in the middle of the season. They're more complete, and I think this huge game against Alabama will really set the tone as to what they're going to be.
Yeah, I like both of y'all right there. Washington has definitely been a surprise. Their defense has been very good. And they're a young team, so coming up, really, they weren't supposed to be good until next year. So Washington coming up over these next couple of years is going to be really impressive. I'm with you on A&M. They've been good. Their defense, finally, they have a good defense.
Exactly.
Trevor Knight at quarterback. They have a good quarterback for the first time since Manziel. But another team is Wisconsin. Wisconsin was a huge surprise for me. They beat LSU, and they almost hang on to beat Ohio State last week.
You're right.
They lost in overtime. It was a tough game, but Wisconsin was a huge surprise for me this year.
Okay, so real fast, just blow through this real fast. Give me a bold prediction in the national landscape of college football real fast.
All right, I got one for you, and I got a thanks to my boy Will Broderick here in the back. Of course. He's much smarter than me. He gave me this. Okay, so this is the first time. My prediction here is Ohio State and Michigan. They'll be the first 2 teams to make the college football playoff, the first time that 2 teams from the same conference make the college football playoff.
Okay, I'll see that and raise you. Louisville will be making the playoffs at the end of this year. I think Clemson has looked very shaky. They have a big game against Florida State after this bye this week, and I think Louisville will eventually ride them out.
I say Michigan wins the Big Ten, and I know that means they beat Ohio State twice.
That's huge.
But I think they can do it. I think Jim Harbaugh can have his team do that.
All right. Definitely some bold predictions here. After the break, we'll tell you everything you need to know about this morning's matchup against Army here on Mean Green Game Day.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
This new mom is struggling to get the skates just right. Now she's holding on for dear life.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of siblings in foster care will take you just as you are.
This job looks perfect. It says you need a high school diploma. You've got one of those, right?
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
I got that.
Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
In just a little over 10 minutes, North Texas will play the Army Black Knights up in West Point. And guys, this is going to be a tough matchup for North Texas. Let's get straight into this. Army has looked really good so far this season. Going into from the offseason, it looked like this could have potentially been a North Texas win, but now that we have 6 games of looking at the Black Knights, it's going to look like a tough matchup for North Texas. Nick, let's start with you. What are your overall thoughts of today's game?
Well, obviously, I mean, their rushing game is tremendous, and the thing that scares me the most about that is their time of possession. They average about 35 minutes of possession time each game. And that spells a lot of trouble for UNT. They have a good defense, but we've seen it against Florida and against Middle Tennessee. They, first half they're on the field and they're doing really well, but after a while they're out there for so long they get tired and they can't keep up.
Well, our offense is the reason that they can't keep up because we can't keep the ball as long as Army does. Now, the thing that scares me about Army is their defense overall. They are just stifling. They don't stop. I have the stats right here. 2nd in rush, 2nd total, 8th pass, and 4th in scoring. They don't let anybody get into that end zone.
Not at all.
Yeah, no, that Army defense is really good, but I think it starts with the offense. And Nick mentioned it with the time of possession. They run the ball well, and it's a different kind. They run sort of this flex bone. They throw some wishbone in there. This is not the kind of offense that you see from traditional college football teams nowadays. This is an old school kind of system that they run.
Throwback.
So it's going to be tough for this UNT defense because they're not used to seeing this. Now, fortunately, they are coming off a bye week, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare. They are playing with some confidence because they only allowed 13 yards rushing to Marshall last time they played. So, I mean, UNT's playing confident, but this offense is a tricky one, and it's going to be tough for them to stop that run.
And I want to go back to something that Nick said. The offense not being able to stay on the field, actually I think Ryan said this too, was a recipe for disaster against Florida and against Middle Tennessee, and I could see that happening again. Let's head over to Brady, our side analyst, real fast and see what he has to say about this Army-North Texas matchup going on in a couple minutes.
Yeah, guys, you hit a lot of the important points. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is, like you said, Army runs a different this wishbone, flexbone, triple option type offense isn't something that your normal offense or normal defense is going to be prepared for. I mean, there's only 1, 2, maybe 3 teams in the country that run something like this, and North Texas has one of them on the schedule. So when you go from a team that's running a spread one week and then go and play the wishbone the next week, it's something that you have to really adjust to it, and it's obviously going to pay off that the bye week was there. But North Texas is going to have to take care of the ball because Army's offense is going to control the time of possession, and so they have to make the most of the possessions that they do have. Kyle?
Thanks, Brady. And another great point. This is such a weird offense to really prepare for it now. Like he said, the bye week is definitely going to help that, and I think that does play to the Mean Green's advantage. But another thing that I want to point out, Army has only attempted a pass, not completed a pass, attempted a pass 50 times on the year.
Yeah, their leading receiver has 5 catches
exactly,
on the year.
and that's ridiculous.
It's unheard of.
It's unheard of, especially nowadays. We talked about it all the time throughout the year on game day. Spread offenses, up-tempo, high point scoring. What do you expect from this game? Do you still expect it to be low scoring, or do you expect it to maybe UNT and Army to put up some points? I mean, even with the time of possession, they put up 62 points last week against Lafayette. Army did. So what are you expecting from this game today?
Well, I mean, Army's going to put up some points. I mean, they run the ball well, and they score a lot of points, like you mentioned, 60-plus last week. But they only give up 14 points a game. This UNT offense is going to have to find a way to score points. But the problem is they're not going to get that many opportunities, and that Army defense is going to be fresh all game because they're not going to have to be on the field that much. Yeah. So will Army score a lot of points? Probably. Will UNT? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I think the 2 big things we need here is discipline and keeping the offense off the field. We need to cut down from the penalties. We had 10 last week. That is not going to fly against a defense that is just a brick wall. And we have to be disciplined also in the flex bone. Like you were saying,
yes,
that we have to contain, keep your positions, just keep the defense right where it needs to be.
Well, and it starts with that. Defensively, it's going to start with that fullback because for that triple option to work, it all starts with if they can get that inside, that handoff to the fullback going, then it opens up everything else on the outside for them as well. The defense has to keep leverage on the football and stay true to your assignments. Each person has an assignment. You have the dive, some guy has the pitch man, some guy has the quarterback, and we'll see if they can keep that discipline all game.
And I said this on Sports Zone the other day. North Texas 3-0 this season whenever scoring 22-plus points, and 0-3 whenever scoring 21 or less, and it'll be an interesting matchup today, to say the least. But when we come back here on Mean Green Game Day, we will predict some of tonight's top matchups, and we will continue to give our outlook on the national landscape here on Mean Green Game Day.
Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. So learn the right temperature to cook each type of meat. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
Hey, did you know that 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Go to theshelterpetproject.org and search your local shelters and rescues. Go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Don't let E. coli mosh with your food. An estimated 3,000 Americans die from a foodborne illness each year. So always separate raw meat from vegetables. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
Are we there yet?
Yep. We're here.
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Oh, look, a redhead.
Staring contest.
You still got it.
I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
They were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
The earthquakes you see in movies are one thing, but real life is a completely different animal. Just because you can't predict an earthquake doesn't mean that you can't prepare for one. In the event of a real earthquake, you should drop, cover, and hold on. Visit ready.gov/earthquake and practice what to do to keep you and your family safe in the event of a real earthquake. And you'll be seen as a hero by your family and your loved ones.
Visit ready.gov/earthquake today.
The Week 8 of college football is upon us, and we have some of tonight's top matchups that we are going to go through and predict ourselves. And we're going to start off with Brady on the side. Brady, go through the games that we're picking and tell us your prediction for these matchups.
Okay, guys. Yeah. So in the first game, our biggest game of the day, pretty much, Alabama, A&M. I'm going to take Alabama in that one. I don't think that A&M has faced anybody really of Alabama's caliber. The Tennessee game was maybe a little bit the closest thing they've had to that, but I'm going to take Alabama in that one. I'm going to go West Virginia over TCU. I really like what West Virginia's been doing this season, and I think they'll keep that rolling today. I've got Arkansas over Auburn, another matchup of two ranked teams. I think Arkansas's run game is too good. They control the clock even better than Army does, which is kind of surprising. But I'll take Arkansas over Auburn. I'm going to go Colorado over Stanford. Christian McCaffrey might be back today, but I don't think that Stanford has really done enough this season to come out on top with against a Colorado team that's really been having a good year. And in our game that's coming up right here in about 5 minutes, I'm going to take Army over UNT. I just think that Army's too good of a team for UNT to be able to do anything offensively, and it's going to be a little bit of a rough game, I think, today. Kyle?
Thanks, Brady, and getting us started off real fast with an Army prediction. I guess no trust over there on the side table. Thanks again, Brady. Great stuff as always. Let's start off once again one of the biggest games maybe of the season. Number 1 versus number 6. Texas A&M and the Aggies roll in to Alabama and try and take down the Crimson Tide. I actually have Alabama pulling this one off. This is the best season I've seen them have in the Nick Saban era, which is crazy to say. Like, I can't even imagine those words coming out of my mouth, but it's totally happening. I just don't think A&M has the athleticism to really keep up. But I will say this. I could see an upset happening. This could potentially be the only time Alabama loses, because if they don't lose this game, I don't see them losing the rest of the year.
Yeah, this is the toughest matchup for Alabama this season. A&M's been great. I've picked them every week. They've done well. But this is not the time I'm going to pick them. Alabama is just too good. They're at home. If they were playing in Kyle Field, sure, I'd probably maybe give A&M a better chance. But on the road, I just don't see it happening.
All right. Don't worry, Aggie fans, because I have your back. I have A&M winning this game, going into Bryant-Denny Stadium and shocking the world.
Okay.
I think they match up well on both sides of the ball. Trevor Knight keeps it consistent, which is the thing that A&M has always had trouble against with Alabama. They've always had shaky quarterback play. Trevor Knight will keep their team under control and composed in their run defense. Their run defense has to stand up against Alabama's run.
How dare you, Ryan, sitting in Kennedy Miller's seats,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and as
It's
he would say,
blasphemous, I
roll
know.
tide,
That's
roll.
right,
That's
right.
what he would always say. Nick, what's your pick on this game?
I mean, everyone's brought up some great points, and I'm with you guys. I think just a home game for Alabama, like you said, the most complete team I think they've had in a long time. And you have Nick Saban at the helm, and that's just too much for A&M.
Moving on to the Big 12, a pretty disappointing season so far for that conference as a whole. TCU was one of those teams to start off with some high expectations, but West Virginia coming out of nowhere, number 12 now in the AP poll. TCU heads in to Morgantown to take on the Mountaineers. Who do you got? I actually have West Virginia.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got West Virginia as well. They've been a huge surprise. I was going to mention them in the last segment of who's impressed us. West Virginia's been very impressive.
Yeah.
Watched them last week against Texas Tech. They made Mahomes and that Texas Tech offense look not very good.
Yeah, that offense puts up huge numbers, and they kept it so contained. They didn't let them get any huge plays. I have West Virginia rolling over TCU this game.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll keep it uniform here. West Virginia wins. I think their offense is just a little too much for TCU at this point. Plus, they're playing at home. I think that's too much for TCU to overcome.
So West Virginia across the board. Let's move back to the SEC. Arkansas heading in to play Auburn, 17 versus 21. A pretty tight matchup here. I actually have the Razorbacks pulling this one out. Like Brady said, they have the time of possession battle. They can really keep it on the ground, and Allen can also throw the ball a little bit too.
Yeah, no, Arkansas is definitely a good team. This is an SEC matchup. These two teams are familiar with each other. But I like Auburn at home. I like Gus Malzahn. And, again, being at home, I think, to me, is really the deciding factor here.
Yeah, this is going to be a battle of the trenches. Whoever wins this will win the game. I have Arkansas winning that battle. Auburn's rush defense is 43rd in the nation. They're pretty good, but I think Arkansas is just going to be too strong on that side of the ball.
I'm exactly with you on that one. I think Arkansas wins. I think the rush game is just too much for Auburn.
And then to the Pac-12, Colorado at Stanford. Colorado, a surprising team once again, and then Stanford, another team with high expectations that's kind of fallen off a little bit. Christian McCaffrey, not necessarily the Heisman candidate season that we were expecting from him, but I still have the Cardinal pulling this one out at home. That's the only reason, really. Colorado's looked great all year long, but just because Stanford is at home, that's the only reason I have them pulling this one out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Stanford at home is definitely a better team, and I like David Shaw as a coach, but Colorado has been better this season, and they have surprised us. And Christian McCaffrey and that entire Stanford team has just not been as good as we thought they were going to be.
Like both of you said, what has happened to Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah,
he
he's
was at
just
the
fallen
top of
off,
the
yeah.
Heisman thing this year, and now
Can't
he's
score
not
on the
even on
road,
the watch
and
list. Their quarterback play has been shaky. It'll be a close game. I think it'll be a really close game when Stanford's at home, but I still think Colorado has it.
I think Stanford wins. I think it's just a little too much for Colorado. Even though Stanford hasn't had a great season, I still think they are just a little too much for Colorado at this point.
And that brings us to our matchup tonight. North Texas heading to West Point to take on the Army Black Knights. And guys, it's going to be a tough matchup for North Texas all the way through. There's the defense, there's the time of possession battle, but you know what? I think the bye week is going to do us good. I think the Mean Green are going to come in ready to defend this triple option. And I'm saying North Texas is going to pull out a victory tonight. I think North Texas is going to go in and stun some people and come out of this one 4-3.
I like the homer attitude. I like the positivity here. But listen, Army's just too good. They're at home. They got one of the best defenses and one of the best rushing offenses in all of college football. They're just going to own the time of possession, and that defense is just going to get worn down.
Yeah, I'm with Eric on this one. Army is just so strong on both sides of the ball. They are going to roll through North Texas, unfortunately.
I'm glad one of us picked UNT. I'm glad somebody on the panel picked UNT. So that's not because I have Army too. One thing I might look out for is North Texas has been really good in the red zone so far this season. Army has been awful defensively in the red zone. So if North Texas can maybe get in the red zone, maybe finish off some drives, maybe it's close, but I still think Army wins.
I don't think we'll get in that red zone.
No, I don't see it.
But that is it for us here on Mean Green Game Day. Be sure to watch the game on CBS Sports as North Texas takes on Army. Thanks to everybody who helped pull this show off. Make sure to watch Sports Zone as well throughout the week. I'm Kyle Youmans. See you later.
Than 125 years in the making. To find new solutions, we create a new point of view. We know what's possible when creativity, originality,